In this episode, we will focus on agile recruitment. Hello everybody, welcome to next HIRECONOMICS. It's my great pleasure to invite here actually at our offices Mark Lundgren, which for me, to be honest, I think he's one of at the current era of modern sourcing, I think, Mark, you are for me the greatest practitioner who is out there. We will be talking about agile recruitment, agile sourcing, which Mark applies with his current work at Portworx. So maybe I will hand it over to you, Mark. Can you tell us more what this is all about? Because as a former engineer, of course, I know Scrum, Agile, but it's software engineering, it's software development, how we can utilize it in recruitment.
Oh, absolutely. So to introduce myself, Mark Lundgren, originally Danish. I live in England. I am a consultant, freelancer in sourcing, and I've done sourcing exclusively for the last 5 years. ThoughtWorks is my current client that I work with full time. I started with them in January, and like a lot of us, I've recruited engineers before and always asked them, do you know Agile? But never actually understood what that meant. So being in ThoughtWorks, which is very much an Agile company, and one of the companies that's been pushing Agile for the last 20 years, I started looking into it more and then went to my team and said, this makes sense, but why are we not doing it? So we sat down as a team, worked with one of our Agile coaches, a very senior Agile coach, make him understand what our processes is, and looked at which things in Agile make sense for us to do as a sourcing team.
By the way, did he have experience with recruitment?
No. So for him, it was interesting as well. He was like, I want to understand how you work. So the way ThoughtWorks work, we go into our clients and either send our engineers in to work with their engineers to get them to become more agile in their development. Or we do their whole development of an MVP. So very much for us. For him, it's as a business analyst, as an agile coach, he actually wanted to understand that because a lot of our clients are startup companies. So for him to be able to say, like, how does you do agile in your company? It should be all of your company, not just your development team. How do we bring it into marketing, HR, and recruitment and sourcing? So for him, he was actually interested in it. So we went through all of our processes, and especially on where is your bottlenecks. So, are you waiting for feedback? And then we looked at, so this is the way we do things. How could it be done better and faster? If in the ideal world, how long does things take? And really went in, like, which parts of Agile can we look at? So we can just go through a bit. This is a presentation we did earlier in the year. Agile is very much, history comes back from the kind of lean manufacturing movement, extreme programming, which is very much about the paired programming, Scrum, which a lot of it kind of comes from the US Navy, and kind of getting all of those. And all of those things kind of come together in what is now called Agile, and kind of manifested itself 20 years ago with the Agile Manifesto of,
do you do stand-up meetings every day?
So that's one of those things. It's like, did it make sense for us? We do stand-up meetings, and it's very much like the Agile thing, the kind of Scrum thing about it's like you do a 15-minute meeting where you go through, what did I work on yesterday? What am I going to work on today? And what's the bottlenecks that I have that prevents me from finishing what I'm doing? So that we either as a team can help each other out, or that the product owner, who's my manager, can say, like, okay, I'll get those bottlenecks away. Like, I'll talk to the business, I'll get you those tools, whatever it is, so that you can get on and just get the work done. So what we did was very much go through our process. Like, we read up on Agile, we looked at what's our problem. So it's like, very much like focus needed, it's hard to prioritize. Everybody thinks their role is the most important. We're in a global team. So at any day I could work with China and Brazil in the same day on roles. And their roles is always the most important to them. But what we can look at a global thing is like, this role has a higher priority because we know that country needs the billable hours, or this salesperson is more important than your things like that. But how do we kind of bring that into prioritizing? So we sat down and we spent a couple of days with our Agile coach, and the last one was very much mapping out our whole process on a wall in our office. With my team is all remote, so I have team members in India, I have team members in the US, and then my boss and I in the UK. So we had everybody on a Zoom call. We were in the office in the UK, and we were working on mapping out this whole process. It's like, this is each step of what we do. This is where we have blockers, not getting feedback, or whatever it is. We put that all on the wall, and then
if you've ever seen something like that at software companies, it's usually a Scrum team.
It's not usually a kind of an ideation of finding out like what's the process that we're trying to get. We put that all into a kind of flow map of like who's responsible for what and how, and then we just came up with some hypotheses. It's like what could work. And one of the things that I've always had, I've been in this industry for way too long, so you end up working in a role for 3 months and you just get bored with it. And that kind of thing. So it was very much, how do we cut that off? You work on a thing for 3 months and they end up filling it internally or whatever it is. So for us, it's like, could we do what we do as sourcers in a week? Like, how much work do we actually put into every role? Like, well, if you just work on one role, how long would it take you to do a long list? If you just focus on one role, how long would it take you to write all the initial outreach and set up a cadence for follow-up? So just think like well, if you're really doing it, doesn't take you more than a day to get a long list. It doesn't take you more than a day to. It's like, so why does it take us 2 months?
And if there are some obstacles, you will find out right away.
Yeah, what are those things? It's like, well, it's getting feedback from the managers. It's like, so what if we, instead of doing the whole search and then sending out people and then sending the interested one to the manager, got the manager to give us feedback after we found the first 20 to calibrate it, saying, are these the right people? And then get them to feedback the whole long list. It's like, if we get these people interested, will you interview them? So that we get that in week 1. So if we get it wrong, we already know on the second day, like, our search is wrong. Let's change the parameters. If we get the long list wrong, we know that. So that we know, like, our target is to get to 100 with 50% female developers, and that the manager will say, like, these are all good. This guy I don't like fine. But we get to 100 people that the manager or the recruiter, whoever's the next one in the next step in the line, likes, so that what we're asking them is like, will you interview this person if they're interested? And that's the people we reach out to. That cuts weeks off our process.
Sure. How do you share the board?
So we run everything on Trello. Like all of what we do in our process. We run LinkedIn Recruiter, so sharing the projects in LinkedIn Recruiter, just sending to the manager. It's like, look, can you give feedback on, yes, great, good, pass, maybe kind of thing. And then we just run through that until we reach our target of 100 people, which was roughly what we calculated. Like, we need to identify 100 people to get a hire. And we've kind of iterated on that. Some countries it's more, some countries we need less. Australia, we probably only need 50. But some of the roles we have in the US, in certain areas, we need 200.
But the numbers game is clear.
Exactly. So for us, it's about, we started with having one number for all role. Now we're starting to kind of like, okay, we're basing it off the last 18 months worth of data. What do we kind of need to get to for us statistically to get a hire? Because what we can control is the job that we do. And we do everything until they're scheduled in for a phone screen with either the recruiter or into an interview with the manager. So that's our target. This is where we want to get to. We know how many those initial interviews it takes statistically for us to hire somebody. Because at the end of the day, like, I don't know if a developer is a good developer. I won't see that from their GitHub. Even if I knew, how to code and I knew enough to kind of, it's not the same. So, okay, statistically, how many interviews do we need to find that right person? So that's what we're working to. At the end of the day, we want hires, but what we can control is how many people we get in that kind of first instance.
So you can say that you are faster, you know the obstacles right away. So as well as with the software, sometimes it happened that 6 months of development and finally they found out there's some obstacle and they basically need to scratch.
And for us, it's about fail fast. It's like, if we can't find this person, then we're going to know. But also we can tell our stakeholders is saying, this is in 2 weeks, you can expect to get the first interviews. But we can tell them, it's like, we won't start working on your role until for another 3 weeks because we have more priority roles ahead of that. And then we can be very clear about, this is when we need your help for feedback. But if you take too long to get feedback, that's going to take longer for you to get candidates because we're not moving forward until we get those feedback points. So if you want this to take longer, it's up to you. If you're fast and you give us feedback and your calendar is available for interviews, you give us your calendar link so we can send that out as a call to action. you will have interviews in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If you drag it out, it's going to take longer. But our job is done. So we've done everything we could to get all of those people on that list to talk to you.
Super.
If we still haven't filled it from all of those interviews, we'll start over again.
Yeah.
We'll look at those people and say, is there somebody we can follow up on? Or we'll start with a new list and we'll go through the same process. But we deal with that as a separate story.
Yeah.
So that we know our job is done. We have some roles that we've done six times the same job because we have a number of roles in that. But we just keep cycling through and reaching out to them, following up with them, sending them emails and following up with different channels. And it's all checklists for us. It's like, this is what it's going to take for us to get the work done.
Super. So if you thought that agile is some kind of a buzzword, like to work, we are agile. We have agile teams. This is really like a methodology which will you will fail fast, as Mark said. You will be more efficient, and as well as in the software engineering, this methodology is applicable everywhere else, including recruitment.
And it's very much a focus on a team. So our targets are not individual. Yeah. It's I may be the one that found the candidate that eventually gets the job, but I've only looked at that candidate on LinkedIn and put them in a project. Everything else has been somebody in my team.
Remember, you once mentioned that somebody is, for example, good at approaching IT people. So let's get this job. We have 2 candidates here, which we really need to maximize the opportunities. Okay, so you, John, you will do it.
Everybody in my team has their own kind of thing that they're really strong at. So we just know it's like they're going to come to me with certain things. I'm going to come to them. And we all, because we're based all over the world, we all have different angles and way of doing things. And we know that as a team. Plus, I know that it's not like how many calls did I do today. It's like, okay, did we reach the target we want? Plus, it's also the whole part of Agile is we constantly changing the things we do. It's not a set process. Like the process here was our first iteration. We just had a team meeting this week where we were like, let's change some things. Like, because there's still some things that's not completely wrong. Let's try to do 2-week sprints and make sure that we're not just looking at the identification piece, but that we have the follow-up as part of it so that we really get to done in those 2 weeks and that we don't kind of have that back end. That every week, every 2 weeks, we start fresh with all new roles and that everything else is closed off. And we'll try that and we'll try different tools to see, does it make us faster? But it's driven by the team, where the team says, something isn't quite right, what can we change? And that's the Agile piece as well, where you're constantly iterating on your process to make a better product.
Super, thank you very much. Thank you for visiting our office here at Recruitment Academy and Good Call in Prague. And see you later. Happy hunting for you all there. See you later.